Hello, this is National Chess Master R. Rats continuing my video series on the correspondence team match played between my video lessons group at chess.com and the team CARPE DIEM, and this was played on board 194. Our man is Grinmaster, rated high 1500s versus low mid 1400s. There's not much to this game. The second game is really interesting. And we're going to see a big groaner right here. If you've watched this series, how many times have I spoken out against this move? What is this move for? Okay, it does a white no good. These rook pawn moves don't develop. You're allowing black to equalize immediately. With all the books and databases at your disposal, you can pretty much play like a grandmaster for 15 moves and have a completely satisfactory game. And if your opponent doesn't use the book, which a lot of people aren't doing, you're going to get a good game. Correspondence chess is win-win for you. You can use the books and databases, get a good opening, get a good position, win more games, raise your rating, get more competition, better competition, improve your play. Okay, let's see what happens. And now black returns the favor. H6. Horrible, terrible move. Does not help development. Weakens the king side. But to some degree, maybe this move actually helps black win the game. Kind of ironic. Now, white's probably got the better position, even though he's wasted a move with A3, because black has weakened his king side. But such is not to be, as we will see. Both sides need to get castled, and they will shortly. And good, we see some development. But this is a good time to just stop and castle. Instead, white gets a little aggressive and plays knight f5, and black just gets rid of that problem piece. And likely he probably should. And so here's one of the drawbacks with h6. If black ignores the threat and castles, there's a potential sacrifice at some point. Maybe not now, but maybe soon. We don't know. And the black king side can get under a lot of duress here real quick. Anyway, that's what happens when you weaken yourself with h6. Okay, but let's see what's going to happen. Both sides castle, and we have probably a relatively even game here. White's got a little more board room, and if white just develops a piece, well, it's black's move. If white just develops a piece, he should be okay. So here, screaming to be played is simply bishop f4. Let's get this bishop developed so we can get the queen off the back rank, so we can get this rook into play. Okay, then maybe we can start thinking about sacking down on this square, something that could very well happen. But instead, white tries a trick and it just loses. I mean, I'm just amazed by the moves people come up with. I mean, I'm not criticizing your rapante, but if you analyze that out, you have some imagination here to give up a piece, but reality is that's what you're giving up. You're giving up a piece and you don't have compensation. Why don't you have compensation? Well, right now you only have two pieces in the game and you're going to give one of them up. Yeah, you get another piece in the game, but it's not enough. And here comes white's move, and black just takes the free knight. And white gets a little bit of an attack. He's attacking f7 and he's attacking e4, but the problem is black can save that knight, and he does. And white can rip the knight off and then take on f7. He goes a little differently. White decides to give up another pawn, and now he gets rid of the knight. Could have done that last move, but he didn't. And after he gets the pawn, let's take stock. White's down a piece. That's what it comes down to. Black has an extra knight. It's going to take white a while to try to construct any kind of an attack. You got to get this set up first, and black can stop that. White develops his rook, and now black just eliminates one of the white attackers, and white decides to give it to him for free. And there it goes. So now black is ahead two pieces, and I'm going to kind of run through the moves. The next game is far more entertaining. This one is just basically over. I imagine it was played because the other game was still going, and why resign? If your opponent times out, you win both games, right? It's not like chess by postcard where we used to hate it when somebody played out a lost game because you're wasting money and and time. But anyway, uh, black's going to win more material as it turns out. And, I'm not going to... white brings his queen back where it started. Could have maybe grabbed some pawns, but whoops. Here's a fork. And there goes a rook. Well, you get the knight back for it. But black's up a rook and a bishop. This is a routine win. And there might be more efficient ways to do it than black did, but at this point it really doesn't matter. White's just going to lose. And black decides to collect a pawn. Let's get that bishop on the on one of these diagonals here. That's where it belongs. But nothing wrong with winning more pawns. Let's get him to attack over here. All right. That doesn't go to the diagonal I talked about. But really, what does white have? White has no play. Now he gets on the right place. But the king is safe. And, let's get rid of all your material. Trade the queens, take your rook, and game's over. And I would go directly to the 7th rank, but it doesn't matter. The game's just over. And at this point, black wins, white resigned, because doesn't matter what he does, black mates in 2. The white king is just not quick enough to stop that plan. Okay, let's flip the board, reset it, enter the other game. And this one is really something. Why won't it reset? Well, maybe I'm not hitting it. There we go. Okay, now let's see what move will it start us out at. Move 1 like it's supposed to? We never know. Hey, it actually started on move 1. If you watch these videos, you've seen it. It rarely starts it out the right move. Okay, this one is topsy-turvy. This is the Marshall defense to the Queen's Gambit. It's usually not the best after knight takes here. White does better to play knight f3 and hold back e4 a move. You have to look that up to find out why. But this allows white to develop with tempo. Attacks the queen. And what's going to happen is both sides are going to start neglecting their development a little bit. They never really... We'll see how it happens. I was trying to think if there was a better move here. E4 is okay. White's got a pawn center. Black counters it. But yeah, here's the point. White plays d5. Now this shuts the center off. This is an opportunity to give black a chance to go wrong, and the stronger players won't go wrong, but the weaker players will. Okay, the best, when you're not sure what to do, move a piece, not a pawn. Okay, the master's been preaching this for years. A perfectly good move is to play knight f3. Why? Well, it defends this pawn on d4, but most importantly, it gives black a chance to go wrong. We don't know what black's going to do, but for the moment, you're attacking this pawn, right? So black's got to deal with that, right? Okay, so suppose black takes. Now white can get his queen off the back row, and if black takes, we don't know if black's going to take, he might not, but if he does, notice how this knight jumped into play really quick. He was sitting back here on g1, now he's on a much better square, d4. Okay, and let's just flick it back to the position where white played d5 and look at the difference. See? White has one piece developed, and in my line, white has 2 pieces developed, and a fairly decent position. But both sides are going to neglect their development, as I say. Queen d6. Okay, yeah, you're attacking a pawn, but that can be protected. Okay, better to get developed. Okay, white protects it. And, maybe black's doing okay here. White has no kingside development. White can't castle kingside with this bishop on this diagonal. So he chases the queen, and queen goes here. And, black's actually doing okay. And I think part of this is because white played d5. But now white starts moving pieces twice in the opening. Let's get the kingside developed. Play bishop check. Play bishop c4 and knight e2. Okay? Instead, knight b5. One move threat, easily dealt with. And now white kind of goes on, I think, an ineffective strategy here. He goes to double black's pawns. But this really does white no good because white doesn't have any tangible way to exploit that. We're not in an ending yet. And at the same time, at some point, black could even play f5 and jettison that double pawn and have the bishop pair. And if the board opens up, the bishops are better. So black is better here. Okay, white finally gets that developed. And here black makes a mistake. A good move is just to play c6. And I think this pawn is going to be hung out to dry in the long run. The knight pretty much has to come back. If you bring it in here, just take it and take it. And you know, this pawn is a goner. There's no white's too. His pieces are all back here. There's no way to support this pawn. It's going to be collected at black's leisure. And if white retreats the knight, I think the same thing is true. This pawn is just basically too far advanced, and black will collect it at his leisure. Just develop his bishop and eventually pile up on it and win it. So, let's find the right spot here. Let me see. Black played king d7. I have to find it here in the notes. Here it is. Okay. King d7. And check. Now there's probably nothing wrong with rook takes g2 and make white prove things. I think maybe black was afraid of rook d8, but he should have adequate resources. He can against that pin and make white prove it. You know, the pin being on the bishop on c8. So bishop d7. Now b4. And here, white wins a pawn and probably, well, it's not really. I'm thinking something. Whoops, I'm trying to go backwards. Sorry, I was saying white wins a pawn, but not really. He's counting on black playing king takes f7, in which case rook takes. But this was a dangerous plan for white to undertake because black handles it correctly, and now strategically black has a winning game. All black has to do is play rook takes g8. If black does this, black will win this pretty simply because black has two minor pieces for the rook. The pawn on c7 is a goner. Let's just look at this for the fun of it. Rook down, takes, make a queen, and off it comes. No matter how you slice it, or you can take with the king and keep the bishop on that valuable diagonal. No matter how you slice it, white's lost. Okay? Pawn count chess, material says it's even, but these two bishops on an open board are just going to wreak havoc against that white rook. Black will pile up, probably win the pawn on a3, then he'll win the pawn on b4, and then these pawns are off to the races. Black has an extra piece. Black wins. But instead, he doesn't take the rook on g8. He comes up with something different. Let's see. No, he did. Wait, no, he did take. No, he doesn't take the. No, he doesn't take the bishop on g8. Yeah, taking the bishop wins. Instead, black eliminates. Oops, wrong move. Eliminates this pawn, which I've just shown wasn't a danger. Now that bishop gets away, and you know we have a game of chess to play here. But right now, white's probably winning. So because now white didn't lose his bishop, white's ahead the exchange and two pawns. The two bishops that black has are a little menacing, but if white's careful, white will win this. But it turns out white isn't careful, and suddenly these bishops spring to life, and white gets himself in a bad way. Now he's going to lose that knight on e2. That didn't have to happen. And now suddenly black is winning again. It's a topsy-turvy affair. Now this king is getting in trouble. And you know, once again, black has the initiative here. Two pieces for the rook, and it's interesting here. There's pressure on b6, but white never gets anywhere with that. We'll see. Okay, here's a check, and another check. And it was at this point that black missed a forced win. He's probably, with the king cut off like that, he's probably going to get mated. And the simplest way to do it is to take this bishop. Okay, let's just look at a couple ideas here. Pawn takes, knight checks. Now you can go two ways. Let's look at both ways. Okay, check here. Now we're going to pick this off and check here, and white can't come back because this is a checkmate right there. Isn't that nice? Okay, so it's safe to say that I'm not going to show every line. It's safe to say that if the king if you don't bring the king back, you're eventually going to have to go to h6, and then the win is met like this. You bring the king over. You're threatening a mate, and you don't have time to take this bishop on b6, and you just come this way, and you check him again, I think. Let's see. And let's see. I think he has to go down here. Then you bring the rook up here. There's a lot of ways. Now this goes there to stop this mate, but you bring the knight here. Now we can go ahead and give up this bishop because we get a mate really quick. And here it comes. And there it is. So, in effect, this move, these continuations led to checkmate. Now, there's one other possibility. I'm trying to remember all these. There was so much to this game. I was just having fun looking at this before I started the video. Let's see. Okay, check. So, the correct move is, okay, yeah, this is right. But here, the correct move is bishop takes. Now, what about rook takes? Okay, well, if anything, black can bring his bishop back, and this king is still cut off. And it's just a matter of time, I think, before this king gets bamboozled. But let's see if black has a direct way. Let's see. Let's check here. Now, where are you going to go? Let's see. This is probably too dangerous. I'm sorry, I don't remember all the lines, but black wins. And if black spends some time analyzing all this, he could have found it. How quick are these people playing correspondence chess? One of the whole purposes of this video series is to teach you folks that you're playing too quick and you need to analyze. And I'm pretty convinced that no matter how many games you're playing or what your average time per move it says on your profile, that isn't necessarily accurate. We get people playing hundreds of games, and they just start with the game that they have the least time first, and 3 days later they finally get to your game, so they end up with a long average time per move, but they may only be spending seconds. Okay, so as I said, it's a topsy-turvy affair, and we're not done yet. Let's get to the right position. Okay, now check. Okay, he checked here, but now he doesn't play bishop takes f5. He checks here, and black still got a little bit of an edge, but he just doesn't quite have the mate. I mean, this looks like a natural continuation, but now black stops and punts and covers his pawn, and that gives white a chance to try something. Activate a rook, and black collects a pawn, and black's still better here. Saves the pawn and keeps that file shut down, the H file, and now comes a check and another check, and now white's got a little bit of counterplay. White's actually threatening a mate, but we got a check, and let's see. And you just can't seem to find a mate. You're so close, but yet so far. But here, black throws the game away with bishop e6, and white now has a win. bishop g6. He didn't play bishop g6. He missed it. But there's two threats. The obvious one is rook takes or bishop takes h4. But the other unobvious one, or maybe it's obvious to you, is if the rook saves itself, white gets a checkmate. Kind of ironic with white's king down there that that white's the one mating. But what does black do? Black's going to lose his rook, and there's nothing he can do about it. So white missed a winning move, and instead of putting his bishop on g6, he exchanged, and then black looked at this and said, "I see a draw. I'm going to take it," and the game ended in a perpetual check, and there it is. So what can I say? Both players could have played better. Both players had chances, and that's one of the ideas with correspondence chess. If you'll take your time and analyze, you can win games that are winning. And if you can't figure it out, you got 3 days. And you say, I don't have 3 days. Well, how many games are you playing? If you're playing 150, then you don't need to take any more and get yourself down to a manageable level, 4 to 10, okay? And then you can really, really, really learn a lot about chess with using correspondence chess. So anyway, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for your time. And I'll be back soon with another one. I'm almost caught up, actually, until more results start coming in. Take care.